Millionaire hailed a cab at 3 a.m. He was shocked to find his lost love behind the wheel. The night was heavy with mystery as the clock struck 3, casting an eerie glow over the desolate streets. Jeremy Collins, a self-made millionaire drenched in wealth yet devoid of connection, stood there with a cold wind biting at his skin. He had just left a high-profile gala glittering and vibrant, but inside him was a void, aching for the one he lost 5 years ago. The city lights flickered above, shadows danced as he reached out to hail a cab. The night felt electric, like something was about to happen. With a screech of tires, a cab pulled up, the yellow paint glimmering stark against the surrounding darkness. The door swung open, and as Jeremy slid in, he felt a familiar surge of warmth. It wasn't just the heat from the cab's heater, it was something deeper. He looked up, and there she was, Sarah. His heart stopped. After all this time, was she really behind the wheel? Her hair was tossed up in a messy bun, and though the years had etched fine lines around her eyes, they sparkled with recognition, and something else. What was she doing driving a cab at this hour? The tension in the air crackled. He wanted to reach out, to say all the things he never had the chance to, but the words got stuck in his throat. The city zoomed past as they shared a heavy silence, both unable to look away. What could have happened to lead her here? The familiar scent of vanilla and musk filled the car, triggering memories of laughter and dreams once shared. She glanced at him sideways, and for a moment, it felt like time had folded back onto itself. But then the silence shattered, a loud horn blaring from a passing truck. The world lurched forward, pulling them back from their fleeting moment. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. A lump formed in his throat as he studied her face, so close and yet so distant. Why are you doing this? He finally mustered, his voice barely a whisper. As her eyes widened with surprise, the streetlights painted fleeting shadows across their faces, and he could sense a whirlwind brewing inside her, a storm of emotions waiting to break free. Just then, the cab made a sudden stop, leaving Jeremy gasping for answers. The world outside faded, and in that moment, nothing was more important than the woman who had once held his entire heart. What would she say? Where had she been all these years? Did she still love him? Would their shattered past rise from the ashes, or was it too late? The engine idled, and the world beyond the cab's windows blurred into a haze of yellow and gray. Jeremy's heart raced. He half expected the driver's side door to swing open, and for Sarah to climb out, vanishing back into the night. His breath caught in his throat, a mix of hope and anxiety swirling within him. You. Sarah's voice trembled, a blend of shock and disbelief. What are you doing here? I could ask you the same thing, he shot back, the words pouring out before he could think. Last I heard, you were in California, chasing dreams. Driving a cab. Isn't exactly what I expected. She hesitated, her eyes flickering with unspoken truths. I came back. I had to. The silence fell heavy between them, thick enough to suffocate. Jeremy leaned closer, desperate to bridge the distance that years had created. I wished I could have found you. Why didn't you come back? We could have what? She interrupted, her voice sharp, an edge of pain layered beneath her words. Rekindled a fairy tale? It's not that simple, Jeremy. It never was. The truth in her statement hit him like a freight train. Memories came rushing back, days filled with laughter and nights smothered by heartbreak. He had always thought they would find their way back to each other. But why hadn't he checked for her? Why hadn't he called? I spent too long thinking you'd be waiting for me, he confessed, choking on the bitterness of regret. I thought we had time." "Life doesn't work that way," she replied softly, her voice now laced with a haunting sadness. "You moved on. You had your perfect life. What was I supposed to do, chase the ghost of our past?" As her words settled between them, Jeremy felt the walls close in. The weight of her reality pressed against him, pushing forth an understanding he had long avoided. "Why are you really here, Sarah?" he asked, his voice hoarse with urgency. "Why keep driving? I know it can't be all there is for you." She swallowed hard, gaze flickering to the rearview mirror as if searching for an escape. "I'm here because I wanted to get away from everything," she finally admitted. "From what we lost and from the pieces of myself I thought I would find again." Overwhelmed, he watched her with a mix of admiration and sorrow. "You still matter to me." "I never stopped caring," he blurted out, the truth pouring out like a burst dam. She turned sharply, eyes ablaze with a mix of confusion and an old flame. "And what does that even mean now? 5 years vanished just like that? Do you think you can just turn it all back?" In that moment, Jeremy crossed the lines of fear and uncertainty. His heart thudded as he replayed every hurtful word he said during their break. The cab became a confessional, a crucible where his feelings for her ignited anew. He could feel a bond reweaving itself, fragile but determined, but before he could respond, the cab lurched forward violently. A shadow darted out of nowhere, slamming into the side of the vehicle with a deafening thud. The sudden impact sent the two of them jolting forward, startling the silence they had just set forth. "Are you okay?" Sarah croaked, breathless, her voice barely audible over the chaos that ensued. "Yeah, fine." "What was that?" Jeremy shouted, adrenaline pumping through his veins. As Sarah tightened her grip on the steering wheel, a sense of dread washed over Jeremy. Suddenly, the night held more than just their tumultuous past. It was concealing a shock wave approaching, threatening to engulf them both. Now he realized that this chance encounter was no coincidence. As the cab sputtered to a halt, they were left with more than just their unresolved feelings. Their lives were about to unravel in ways neither could foresee. The night was only beginning, and dark secrets were waiting to be unveiled. What had Sarah tried to escape? What would they uncover in the wake of the collision? The cab teetered for a moment, the engine groaning as Sarah struggled to regain control. Jeremy's heart thundered in his chest, each beat resonating with a mix of disbelief and panic. Hit. It felt surreal, like something out of a bad horror flick. He leaned forward, half expecting to see what had crashed into them, desperate for clarity among the chaos. "Sarah, are you okay?" he shouted, glancing through the windshield. I think so." She managed, her voice still shaky. Before he could respond, a figure stumbled from the shadows, moving closer to the cab. The dim light of the street lamps illuminated a young man, his face contorted in shock. Blood dripped from his forehead, sizzling against the concrete. Panic ignited within Jeremy. "Get back!" he yelled, fear clenching his throat. The man staggered, looking between Jeremy and Sarah, his eyes wide with fear. "I'm sorry. I didn't see you. I was running." "What were you running from?" Jeremy's voice was sharper than he intended. The man swallowed hard, a flicker of recognition crossing his features. I didn't mean to. I've been followed." "Followed?" It was Sarah who spoke now, her uncertainty giving way to a spark of resolution. "By who?" As the young man tried to catch his breath, the sounds of the night shifted around them. The distant wail of sirens echoed, met by the crunching sound of footsteps steadily approaching. Jeremy's stomach dropped. "Listen, we can't stay here," the man urged, urgency flooding his tone. "They'll find us just like they found me." Before either of them could respond, movement blurred on the edge of Jeremy's vision. Figures loomed in the distance, emerging from the shadows like ghosts, their intentions unclear but menacing. "Who are you talking about?" Jeremy pressed, his heart racing as adrenaline surged. "What have you gotten into?" The young man's eyes darted back and forth. I swiped some money, a lot of money. I didn't know it was dirty, man. I thought I was just helping a friend. Great, just great, Jeremy muttered under his breath as the figures drew nearer. Sarah shifted, pulling out her phone, but he stopped her. No, don't. He grabbed her arm tightly. Do you want to lead them right to us? What are we supposed to do? She hissed, her voice laced with panic. The young man opened his mouth but was cut off by the echo of mocking laughter and heavy boots crunching the pavement. The air thickened, tightening around Jeremy like a vice. The figures continued their approach, inching into the haunting glow of the streetlights. Each step was deliberate, sending chills rippling down his spine. Get down! Jeremy yelled, pushing Sarah low in her seat, adrenaline overpowering the fear. The world outside exploded into movement. Shouted insults, the rustle of fabric and heavy breathing filled the air. Jeremy's gaze darted to the rearview mirror, trying to track their shadows, anxiety clawing at him as the seconds stretched. He had wanted answers, resolution for the tangled mess that was his heart. Now, it felt like every escape route was closing in. The past loomed over them, but it wasn't the only threat now. The collision had awakened something they finally couldn't run from. What do we do? Sarah's voice was a whisper, the stark terror in her eyes lifting into desperation. In that moment, Jeremy knew they weren't just risking their hearts, they were risking their lives. Stay quiet and trust me, he whispered, as the figures stepped into view. He would have to face what they had become, ever since Sarah had walked away. But would he outsmart what was closing in? As a shadow detached itself from the group, stepping into the light, Jeremy felt the weight of his past crash against the present. The unfamiliar face bore a chilling grin, and for Jeremy, the realization hit hard: some ghosts refuse to stay buried. In a heartbeat, he understood that this was only the beginning. With fate pushing them recklessly into the unknown, he had to make a choice: fight or flee, knowing that the consequences could alter everything. Could he protect Sarah? Could they both survive whatever lay ahead? The dark silhouette stepped closer, eyes glinting with an unsettling mix of recognition and menace. Jeremy's breath hitched in his throat. What twisted karma had brought him face to face with Tommy, the local enforcer he thought he'd left behind? Nice reunion, huh? Tommy sneered, advancing toward the cab. The others fell back, forming a semicircle that locked eyes on Jeremy and Sarah, making escape feel like a fading dream. Don't move! Jeremy shouted, adrenaline surging, his protective instinct flaring to life. Tommy chuckled, the sound low and menacing. You think you can order me around? Look at you hiding in the shadows while the real players are out here battling for their lives. What do you want? Jeremy managed to demand, legs shaking beneath him but refusing to budge. I heard about that score, Tommy said, nodding absently to the young man who had staggered toward them. He took what doesn't belong to him, and now he's brought you into this mess. How's that for a surprise? The young man, still clutching his head, moved closer to Jeremy, his voice wavering. I didn't mean to. Please. Shut up. Jeremy snapped, furiously cutting off any sympathy. They didn't have time for explanations or empty apologies. The laughter from the group grew louder, each chuckle slashing at Jeremy's determination. You really think you're gonna save the day? One of the figures taunted, his arms crossed. You're a joke, always have been. Jeremy clenched his fists, heat rising in his cheeks. He was so tired of being dismissed. Let us go. This has nothing to do with us. Wrong, Tommy replied coldly. You're here now, and you need to pay for your little friend's mistakes. The shadows around them shifted. Each figure moved, a compact unit, marching toward the cab with an aura of danger. Time felt warped. Just a heartbeat ago, they'd been driving aimlessly, lost in a sea of adrenaline and hope. But now everything had changed. Do you have a plan? Sarah whispered urgently, her eyes darting from the men to Jeremy, fear clinging to her words. What can I plan? He hissed, desperate thoughts spilling out. We can't stay here, but we can't just run. The young man interjected, glancing toward the open street. It's not that easy. They won't stop chasing me, not after tonight. Then we fight. We fight. Jeremy's voice crackled with determination. But deep down, his heart was heavy. This was a shot in the dark. With a nod, Sarah readied herself, her gaze fierce. They were in it together, ready against whatever threat loomed. As the forces on the outside inched closer, Jeremy's body became a cage of nerves and anger. Whatever happens, don't let them separate us, he said, locking eyes with Sarah. What about him? She asked, nodding to the young man who had upended their lives. He's on his own. Jeremy said sharply, frustration boiling over. We have to think about ourselves. Just then, Tommy lunged forward, a glint of metal sparkling in his hand, a knife catching the lamplight. Jeremy's heart raced as he shifted his body to shield Sarah, the instinct to protect flickering through him like fire. Stop right there. Jeremy bellowed, feeling the weight of 6 pairs of eyes on him, the air thickening with tension. The silhouette swaggered, his confidence palpable, a devilish grin plastered across his face. You think you can dodge this? You think you can protect her from me? You don't know me. Jeremy shouted, feeling a raw power course through him. All I need to know is you've stirred up a storm, and storms get ugly. The group tightened their formation, stepping closer, shadows smothering the light. The world around them spun each second heavy with consequence. Could they slip away, or would they confront the darkness head-on? A sudden, distant siren wailed, slicing through the thick tension. Jeremy's heart raced anew. Was it hope? Or was there still no escape from the chaos lurking in the night? Suddenly, the siren halted, and the oppressive silence fell like a blanket. Jeremy leaned forward, ready to fight, unyielding against the impending storm. Let's see how brave you really are. Tommy taunted, and then it hit him, a brutal realization: the true battle wasn't just against Tommy or the henchmen. It was against their own fears, their pasts looming as ever-present threats. What if running wasn't the answer? What if standing their ground was the only way forward? As shadows danced threateningly, Jeremy held tight to Sarah, mind racing. What would they choose? Would they give in to the terror or rise against it? Jeremy took a deep breath, every sense heightened. The bell was tolling, and their reckoning awaited. He glanced at Sarah, fire igniting in her eyes. In 3, 2. But behind them, laughter erupted, mocking. And in that heartbeat, everything changed. But would they be ready for it? Or was there no way out? The world around them shifted as time seemed to stretch, hanging by a thread. Jeremy's heart pounded, each beat echoing in his ears like a war drum, setting the stage for inevitable confrontation. Sarah's grip tightened on his arm, her breath quickening. What do we do? She whispered, fear swirling in her eyes. Fight, Jeremy gritted out, his resolve hardening against the uncertainty. The laughter from Tommy and his crew sent chills down Jeremy's spine. They moved closer, forming a wall of menace, each figure looming larger than life. Jeremy felt the air thicken, heavy with impending violence as Tommy twirled the knife nonchalantly, mocking his fear. You've got spirit, I'll give you that. Tommy sneered, stepping forward. Suddenly, he lunged, the blade flashing in the dim light. Time slowed. Jeremy reacted instinctively, shoving Sarah back just as Tommy's knife sliced through the air. It narrowly missed Jeremy's ribs, the sharp sound of metal cutting only the tension around them, not flesh. In that instant, chaos erupted. Adrenaline surged. Jeremy dodged to the side, spinning to face Tommy, who was too close for comfort now. With a roar, Jeremy shoved him away, the force of his anger propelling Tommy backwards, momentarily disarming him. Run! Jeremy shouted to Sarah, urgency lacing his voice as he caught a glimpse of the others growing restless, eager to join Tommy's aggression. But Sarah stood firm, defiance flooding her features. "I'm not leaving you. Are you crazy?" he snapped, glancing at the advancing figures. "This isn't about pride. If we get out of here, we live to see another day." Before he could argue further, the young man, desperation carving lines into his face, lunged at one of Tommy's henchmen. The act drew attention, a spark igniting a full-blown fire. The others surged forward, engulfing the scene in a savage frenzy. "Get inside the cab!" Jeremy yelled, his voice cutting through the chaos like a lifeline. "It's our best chance." As the melee unfolded, Sarah broke away, darting toward the vehicle. Jeremy followed, but amidst the shouts and bursts of adrenaline, he lost his footing, a rogue punch catching him on the side of the head. Stars danced in his vision as he staggered, barely keeping his balance. "Jeremy!" Sarah's voice broke through the haze. Pushing through the pain, he regained his senses and bolted to the cab, where Sarah was already fumbling with the door, frantic. He burst through just as the group engulfed the scene. "We need to drive," she yelled, panic spilling from her lips. Jeremy grabbed the wheel, throwing a glance back at the fray unfolding outside. The sirens, the distant wail had receded, leaving only the cacophony of fists and fury echoing in the late-night air. "We can't just sit here," he shouted, gripping the wheel tightly. "We can't wait for them to surround us. Just start the engine," Sarah urged, her eyes darting, searching for any sign of retreat or safety. Jeremy turned the key, praying for a miracle. The engine roared to life, and just as he slammed it into gear, the cab's door flew open. A heavy-set man lunged for Sarah, his face twisted with rage. Time stretched again, and Jeremy shoved Sarah aside, raising his arm defensively. "Get away!" he growled, adrenaline firing up his every nerve. The man lunged, but the moment slowed further. It was a fight for survival. Jeremy, emboldened by fear, planted his foot on the accelerator and turned the wheel sharply at just the right moment, swinging the cab around. The sudden movement sent the assailant tumbling back, connecting him with the concrete. "Go, go, go!" Jeremy yelled, heart racing even faster as he tore away from the chaos, tires screeching against the asphalt. As they sped away, the shadows behind them blurred into a frantic swirl of chaos. They had escaped for now. But a feeling of dread settled over Jeremy, like a dark cloud refusing to move on. "They'll come after us," he finally breathed, mind racing with possibilities. Sarah turned to him, her face pale yet determined. "There's nowhere safe. Not anymore." Just then, a piercing shout echoed from behind, sending a chill through Jeremy's gut. "You can't just run. You owe us." The threat lingered in the air, heavy and unapologetic, as reality came crashing back. "Who are these people?" Sarah whispered, breaking the silence. "What do they want?" Jeremy locked eyes with her, his heart sinking. "I don't know, but whatever it is, we need to find out before they find us again." As they raced through the night, the question hung between them, breeding a darkness that felt all too familiar. Would the past finally catch up with them, or could they outpace the tide of destiny waiting in the shadows? The night air felt electric, charged with a tension that forced Jeremy's heart into overdrive. The cab's headlights sliced through the darkness, illuminating the deserted streets, yet danger felt omnipresent, lurking just beyond visibility. Sarah's eyes darted to the mirrors, paranoia mingling with her fear. "Do you think they're following us?" she asked, her voice a tremor against the engine's roar. "I don't know," Jeremy admitted, stealing a glance at the road ahead. "But we need to figure out what's next. This isn't over just because we outran them once." Suddenly, a figure appeared, obscured in the faint glow, a silhouette of muscle and menace. Jeremy's blood turned to ice as the man from the alley flashed into view. "He's back!" he gasped, slamming on the brakes just as the figure lunged into the path of the cab. To his horror, the man jumped onto the hood, his fists pounding against the glass like Judgment Day's gavel. You can't escape. A surge of fury surged through Jeremy, clarity spiking through the adrenaline-fueled haze. Get off! He yelled, gripping the wheel and swerving precariously. The cab lurched violently, and the man lost balance, crashing into the street with a thud. Go! Now! Sarah screamed, her voice slicing through the fear. With trembling hands, Jeremy hit the gas, the tires screeching as they darted away, leaving the darkness and that terrible figure behind, but the danger was just beginning. As they tore down the streets, memories crept up on Jeremy, nagging at the edges of his mind. The nefarious faces, the whispered threats, the feeling of dread that hung over them like fog. What the hell was that? He muttered, his chest tightening. Who are these people? I don't know, but we need to find a place to hide, Sarah replied, her fingers gripping the seat so tight her knuckles turned white. They'll come for us. They know who we are. What if they don't just want us? What if they want something else? Jeremy slammed the steering wheel, frustration bubbling over. This isn't just a random attack. It feels personal. A deafening silence settled in the cab, heavy with the weight of revelations yet to come. Sarah's eyes widened as a fear sparked in her heart, joining Jeremy's dread. What do you mean? Remember that night? He murmured, more to himself than to her. The fight. We never told anyone. None of our friends knew. How could they possibly? But before he could finish, a sudden bright light swelled in the rearview mirror. A car, headlights blinding, began to close the distance. It was coming fast and furious, chasing them down like a predator after prey. Jeremy! Sarah shouted, her voice shrill with panic. What do we do? His mind raced. I need to lose them. Hold on. He swerved hard to the right, the world outside blurring like a smear of paint, careening down a side street. It was a gamble. If they could navigate the maze of alleyways, maybe they could shake the pursuing vehicle. The car followed closely, relentless. They weaved in and out of familiar neighborhoods, but all Jeremy could focus on was the annoying horn blaring behind them, the other driver determined to keep up. His heart raced with every turn. We need to get off the main roads, he decided, veering into a cramped alley, heart pounding like a war drum. The irony of their trapped lives struck him hard. They had fought so hard to escape their past, and now it clung to them like a shadow, refusing to let go. With every twist and turn, doubt edged into his resolve. Do you trust me? He asked desperately. Of course, but trust me, he repeated, pumping the gas. The engine responded eagerly, roaring as they broke around a corner. But just as they rounded the bend, Jeremy froze, staring in disbelief. In front of them stood a barricade, cops milling about, lighting blazing. Jeremy! Sarah shrieked, urgency coloring her voice. He slammed on the brakes, tires screeching in protest, narrowly stopping before crashing into the police. Where could they go now? Through the chaos, a fleeting thought took hold, a glimmer of an idea that was as reckless as it was crazy. We need to blend in, he whispered, panic tightening his chest. What do you mean? She asked, eyes wide. Trust me, he said again, voice steady as he unbuckled his seatbelt, adrenaline making him reckless. We create a distraction and slip away. And just like that, the darkness wrapped around them once more. Would they disappear into the shadows? Or would they find themselves ensnared in a web much darker than they anticipated? The sound of sirens pierced through the damp night air, mixing with the heavy thud of Jeremy's heart. Clenching the steering wheel, he flashed a glance at Sarah. Her face was a canvas of fear and uncertainty, etched deep with urgency. We've got to act fast. As he unbuckled his seatbelt, his mind raced. They had only seconds before the barricade noticed them. Stay low. Just, trust me, he ordered, his voice straining against the noise. Starting to feel a surreal detachment, Jeremy's instincts kicked in. He shifted the cab into reverse, the engine sputtering aggressively as he backed into the shadows of an alley. "Are you insane?" Sarah hissed, shrinking back in her seat. "Just wait," he gritted through gritted teeth. Their pursuers were likely shouting about them now, the police unaware of how dangerously close they were to the truth. With a rush of adrenaline, Jeremy heard the frantic horn of the black car behind them revving up as it approached the barricade. It was time to make their move. With a swift glance in the mirror, he gunned the engine, careening forward into the alley, leaving behind the wailing sirens and flashing lights. The alley was a narrow stretch, the sides lined with dumpsters that seemed to close in around them. His heart raced. "Come on," he urged, frustration gnawing at him. They couldn't afford to be spotted, not now that as they turned sharply into another side street, the shadows enveloped them, leaving the chaos of the night behind. Jeremy reluctantly released a breath he didn't realize he was holding, but the temptation of relief was short-lived. "Look!" Sarah gasped, pointing ahead. An intersection loomed before them, the streetlights casting eerie shadows that danced ominously. Cars idled at a red light, their drivers oblivious to the storm brewing only blocks away. "What's our plan now?" she asked, the panic creeping back into her voice. "We need to get off the streets," Jeremy murmured, weighing his options. "But, we need a disguise." "Are you out of your mind? We can't just walk out in front of those cops." Sarah shot back. He slammed his hand against the wheel, frustration bubbling over. "We don't have a choice. They're waiting for us at the barricade. If we're going to survive this suddenly," a loud crash interrupted them. The black car had rounded the corner, tires screeching against the pavement as it raced toward them, its headlights illuminating their cab with blinding intensity. "Go!" Sarah shouted, her voice a mixture of rage and fear. Jeremy slammed the gas, rocketing forward. Somehow, they needed to slip through, they couldn't simply run. Not this time. The thought that they might be running out of options crushed his chest with an unbearable weight. Sarah scanned the block, her gaze darting between the buildings as if searching for a way to just vanish. "Up ahead!" she yelled, spotting a parking structure with its entrance glowing defiantly. "There! Hang on!" he shouted, swinging the wheel hard to the left as they barreled into the ramp. The cab felt like it was flying, the world outside a blur of steel and concrete. With a hard jolt, they entered the dimly lit structure. The pillars loomed before them like giants blocking their escape. Adrenaline coursed through him, and Jeremy's mind raced with possibilities. They needed to hide, and fast. "Park near the back," Sarah urged, while fear of being cornered crept back into their hearts. Jeremy pulled into a vacant space, well away from any visibility. They sat there, breathless. The chaos outside now felt like a distant echo, but the beast was still hunting. With shaky hands, he turned off the engine and glanced over at Sarah, whose wide eyes reflected a mix of terror and resilience. "What now?" she whispered, barely holding her composure. "Now, we blend in," he said slowly, a nervous plan forming. "Maybe they're looking for two kids. We have to act like we belong here." As they both took a moment to gather their nerves amidst the seismic tension, a new sound erupted outside. A loud crash, a shout, and the unmistakable sound of pursuit. The hunt was closing in on them. They exchanged a look, realizing that soon, they needed to make the ultimate choice: fight for survival or run deeper into a web that may ensnare them forever. "Jeremy, what's the plan when they find us?" Sarah's voice trembled, cutting through the tension. "Whatever it takes," he replied, determination igniting behind his fear. "We won't go down without a fight." As the threat loomed closer, shadows crept deeper into their souls. An unsettling tension hung heavy in the air as they braced for the inevitable clash. Would they uncover the truth, or would they lose themselves forever in the dark? The thud of footsteps echoed through the parking structure, reverberating off the cold concrete walls. Jeremy and Sarah pressed against the back seat, hearts pounding in their chests like a desperate race against time. The sound of garbled voices drifted into their hiding place, a handful of officers scouring the area for any sign of them. "Please, God, let them leave," Sarah whispered, her breath shaky. "Just stay quiet," Jeremy urged, feeling the weight of every moment hanging in the air like a thick fog. He could hear the clattering of keys and the radio crackling, but one voice stood out sharper than the rest. "Did you check the back lot?" A cop shouted, his tone filled with frustration. "Yeah, nothing there." "They can't have gotten far," another replied, "but at this time of night, they've got to be nearby." Jeremy exchanged a glance with Sarah, panic was etched all over her face. He squeezed her hand, a silent promise that they would figure this out together. At that moment, a figure emerged, clad in a dark uniform, stepping back into view. Jeremy's heart dropped into his stomach. It was a police officer, near their parked cab. The officer scanned his surroundings, sunlight catching the badge on his chest. "We'll find you," he boomed into the night. "Nowhere to hide forever," Sarah murmured, a quiver in her voice. "I know," Jeremy whispered back, trying to steady his rising anxiety. "We need to think fast." He glanced around the parking structure. The stairway leading to the upper levels was just a few spots away. It was risky, but they had to try to escape before the net closed in on them. "We're going to make a run for it," he decided decisively. "On my count." "No. They'll see us." Sarah protested, her eyes widening. "Better than waiting for them to catch us." "I want to let them take us," he replied fiercely. He counted softly, each number a beat of hope. 1, 2, 3. In one swift movement, they burst from the car. Adrenaline surged as they raced toward the staircase, each footfall echoing like thunder. Jeremy glanced back, the officer still rifling through their cab, oblivious to the fleeing shadows. In moments like this, fear mingled with desire, the desire to run, to be free, to escape this nightmare. They bounded up the steps, hearts pounding with each level they climbed. Emerging onto the roof, the cool night air hit them like a slap. The view was haunting, city lights glittering below, but there was no time to take it in. "What now?" Sarah gasped, her breath heavy with exertion and fear. "Look for a way down," Jeremy replied, scanning the edges. He spotted a fire escape on the far side. "Over there." As they scrambled towards the escape, shouts echoed from below, growing louder. The officers had regrouped, and the sound of thudding footsteps resonated against the ground, drawing closer. Jeremy clutched Sarah's hand tightly, not daring to let go. "If we can get to the bottom, we can lose them in the streets," he urged, taking the lead. They reached the fire escape just as the first officer burst onto the roof. "Hey! Stop right there!" The officer bellowed, the command laced with authority. Crowding the metal steps, they began to descend, but panic seized Jeremy's heart when he heard the burst of radio static cut through the air. "Suspect spotted on the roof," adrenaline surged. "They couldn't be cornered here, not now." Jeremy reached the bottom rung and glanced back. Sarah's eyes met his, a mixture of fear and determination swirling within. "Go, go!" he urged. They bolted from the fire escape into the alleyway behind the structure, urgency pushing them to run faster. Yet suddenly, in the shadows, Jeremy caught a fleeting glimpse of a familiar face. A figure turned away, cloaked in the inky blackness. His heart skipped a beat. In this chaos, was it possible? "Jeremy?" Sarah's voice broke through his stunned silence, pulling him back. "What's wrong?" The figure turned, and for a moment, the world tilted on its axis. There was a flicker of hope hidden among the shadows. Whoever it was might hold the key to unraveling the twisted web they had found themselves in. But as Jeremy took a step forward, a loud crash echoed down the alley, snapping him back to the reality of their perilous situation. Footsteps raced behind them. The option for hesitation had flickered and faded. "Run!" he screamed, urgency flooding his voice as his instincts kicked in again. They needed to move, but the figure watched him, holding something, a clue, a promise, another danger. As he turned away, the thought hung thick in the air. Could the answers they desperately sought be hidden in plain sight? Time twisted, and the walls closed in what could happen next. Desperation clawed at them both as they sprinted deeper into the night. Would they unravel the truth or fall straight into the hands of those hunting them? The chase was far from over. They ducked into another alley, heartbeats racing as they pressed themselves against the rough brick wall, straining to listen. The shouts of the officers echoed in their ears, but the chaos felt distant now, almost muffled by the pounding in their chests. What was that back there? Sarah's voice trembled, her eyes darting back toward the alley they had just fled. I don't know, Jeremy replied, trying to quell his own racing thoughts. But we can't think about that now. We've got to keep moving. They pushed forward, weaving through the tight spaces between dumpsters and abandoned cars, shadows flickering in the glow of dim streetlights. Jeremy's mind raced, piecing together fragments of their flight. The figure, could it have been someone from their past? A friend, or something more? Doubts crept in, but there was no time to dwell. They had to stay focused. Suddenly, a sharp noise echoed behind them, like a metal clang. It sent a bolt of panic through him. Did you hear that? Maybe they found out we're gone, Sarah said, her voice thick with fear. Or maybe it was nothing, he wasn't convinced. They were too close to being caught. Just then, Jeremy spotted a narrow path leading closer to the street, a way out of the alley. This way. He motioned, grabbing her wrist and urging her forward. As they neared the street, the sound of sirens wailed in the distance, closing in on their sense of safety. But a mist hung in the air, intensifying their desperation. We can't end up in their hands, Sarah gasped as they reached the corner of the alley, and he could see the street ahead, illuminated by the harsh light of oncoming headlights. Jeremy hesitated, instinct screaming at him to find cover, but panic drove him onward. They raced into the flow of traffic, darting through the cars, hearts pounding as the city hummed with life around them. He felt exposed, but ahead lay a chance to disappear among the crowd. Stay close, Jeremy urged, pulling Sarah into a thrumming street. People bustled past, oblivious to their plight, consumed by their own lives. The powerful glow of neon signs buzzed around them, and for a moment, Jeremy thought they'd melted into the city's pulse. But just as he began to feel a flicker of relief, he caught the sight of a police cruiser rolling slowly down the street, its lights cutting through the night like a lighthouse in a storm. Over here. He tugged abruptly, guiding Sarah into a nearby bar, the entrance adorned with a flickering neon sign that read open. They slipped through the door just as the cruiser wheeled to a stop outside. Inside, the atmosphere was thick with smoke and the hum of casual conversations. Jeremy scanned the faces of patrons clustered around tables, seeking her amid their silhouettes. Quickly, he spotted an empty booth at the far back. He led Sarah to it, both collapsing into the shadows. What do we do now? Sarah whispered, her wide eyes frantically searching for answers. Just breathe, he instructed, his voice low and steady even as his heart thundered. We'll figure something out. We have to. The weight of the situation pressed down on them, but Jeremy couldn't help glancing towards the entrance. His skin prickled, anticipating the sight of the officers stepping through at any moment. Then, a woman across the bar caught his eye, and time froze. She looked strikingly like someone Jeremy once knew, a ghost from a whirlwind past. Long, dark hair falling around her shoulders, entrancing smile aiming straight at him. Was it possible? Jeremy? Sarah's voice broke through his trance, snapping him back. Keep your head down. What's wrong? His heart raced anew, feeling the longing and confusion swirling inside him. The woman still peered across the room, as if she could sense his gaze. A memory flickered. Their last goodbye had been bitter, filled with regrets and unspoken words. But now, she appeared as if called forth by fate itself. Was she friend or foe? The swirling path of fate twisted tightly around them, and he felt the urgency grow. What if she can help us? He pondered aloud, barely a whisper. Before Sarah could respond, the bar door swung open, sending a rush of chill into the room. But this time, it wasn't just officers. Jeremy, look! Sarah exclaimed, her voice low but frantic. A group of dark figures crossed the threshold, the unmistakable silhouette of authority surrounding them. He couldn't keep his eyes off the woman, she'd seen them. The connection burned within. His breath caught. This wasn't just about escape anymore, it was about confronting a past that just might hold the answers to their survival. What would happen next? Would Jeremy be able to bridge the gap between yesterday and today in a moment that could change everything? The tension in the bar sharpened as Jeremy watched the dark figures move with purpose, scanning the room with eyes that pierced through the dim light. But his focus remained fixed on the woman across the way. Could she be the ally they desperately needed? Memories flooded back, flooding his mind with warmth that contrasted against the nightmare they were living. Jeremy, are you listening? Sarah hissed, her anxiety palpable like electricity in the air. Yeah, he mumbled, not tearing his gaze away. What's the plan? But he lost himself in thoughts of the past, the laughter they shared, the dreams they painted. She had been his light, but their world had fallen apart so quickly. The woman raised her chin slightly, letting Jeremy know she recognized him, and for a moment, the chaos around them faded into an unfiltered focus. Stay here, he finally whispered to Sarah, setting his breath with resolve. Are you crazy? She hissed. You can't just go over there. I have to, he said, determination hardening his voice. She might know something. He pushed his way through the crowd, heart racing in sync with footsteps, the world a blurry backdrop as he closed the distance. The faint sounds of laughter and clinking glasses mixed with the distant hum of sirens outside, but they felt far away. As he reached her table, he hesitated, his heart pounding mercilessly against his rib cage. She looked up, her eyes wide, the surprise morphing into cautious curiosity. Jeremy? She asked, voice lowering to a conspiratorial whisper. Marie, he breathed, heart leaping. I didn't expect to find you here. What's happening? I heard about you leaving town, she replied, tension creeping into her tone. Things are complicated, he admitted, shooting a glance over his shoulder. I need help. Her brows furrowed in concern. With what? Just trust me. I'm in trouble, and I don't know where to turn, he pleaded, desperation flooding his tone. Before she could answer, the door swung violently open. The officers from earlier stormed in, sweeping the bar with a searchlight of authority. Nobody leaves, shouted the lead officer, a steely resolve in his eyes. Back door. Marie suddenly urged, her voice sharp with urgency. Come on. Jeremiah felt the world spin. He turned toward Sarah, whose face was a mask of panic, but then Marie grabbed his arm, pulling him toward the back of the bar just as chaos erupted behind them. Get down. A voice barked, and the patrons scrambled, shouting in confusion as the officers barreled through the main area. Jeremy and Sarah ducked behind the bar, heartbeats synchronized with the frantic atmosphere. They're looking for you, aren't they? Marie whispered, panic cutting through her voice. You've gotten too deep into something dangerous. We know too much about those men from earlier, Sarah added, glancing uneasily at Jeremy. Please, if you know a way out. Jeremy's voice cracked. We can't stay here. I do. Follow me, Marie urged. They slipped through the back entrance and raced into the alley, feet pounding against the slick pavement. The sound of chaos from inside faded into the background, but it wouldn't last long. Where do we go? Sarah gasped, her breath ragged with fear. The basement, the old service area, Marie responded, leading the way with quick, determined steps. If we can get there, we might be able to find a way out undetected. Just stick close. Adrenaline surged as the adrenaline pushed their bodies faster, a desperation born from the inevitability of danger. They raced down the dim stairs, the cold air wrapping around them, swirling with the weight of every moment lived, both past and present. As they reached the basement, Marie hurriedly pushed them inside, barricading the door behind them. The air was stale, thick with darkness, memories of another time swirling in the silence. "Are we safe?" Jeremy whispered breathlessly, the tightness in his chest easing slightly as he strained to hear any signs of pursuit. "For now," Marie replied, eyes wide but resolute. "But we have to talk, and we have to talk quickly." "Why?" Sarah asked, keeping close to Jeremy, her fingers intertwining in a silent grasp for reassurance. "Because they've been looking for you," Marie said, looking directly at Jeremy. "Your past has caught up with you, and it's darker than you think." "What do you mean?" Jeremy felt ice slide down his spine. "Tommy and his crew, they won't stop until they find you. It's tied to a job you didn't finish, and if they think you're involved." The weight of her words landed heavily, a realization dawning that swallowed him whole. "I thought I left that behind," he whispered, panic and dread welling up within. "You can't escape your past, Jeremy. It's clawing at your back right now." Marie's voice rose, urgency echoing off the damp walls of the basement. Sarah interrupted, panic creeping back into her voice. "What do we do?" "We need to go to the safe house," Marie said, breathless determination flowing through her. "You need to get away from the city. I can help, but you have to trust me." "I trust anyone but the darkness behind me," Jeremy grimaced, the visceral fear coursing through his veins. It was the moment of truth. The moment when a choice hung in the air like smoke: flee, resolve everything that had tangled their lives, and face fears steeped in shadows. "Then let us go before it's too late," Sarah agreed, determination taking root in her chest. "Together? All of us?" Jeremy hesitated, the implications of their past hanging between them. "All of us," Marie said firmly. "We leave now. If we do, we might just be able to close that chapter once and for all." With no time to waste, they turned towards the darkness ahead, footsteps echoing and hearts aligned, each one ready to step into the unknown. As they made their way to safety, Jeremy felt a resolve building. Whatever came next, they would confront it together. And maybe, just maybe, he could find a redeeming answer to their narrative, weaving their fates back into a story worth living. Wherever the night took them next, they would face it head-on, bound together in unity, determined to rewrite the past that had sought to ensnare them. But the journey was just beginning. You need to subscribe immediately so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to help feed the algorithm. Fall into the comments section and let us know your thoughts on this wild conclusion. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this ending. Don't wait even one more second to show your support. Only true fans understand the importance of backing the channel through these actions.